It's that time of year again where I sit down and find out what a top 50 list looks like. Welcome back to Motorsport 101.
Here it comes with fantastic new prizes. Motorsport Podcasting's most exciting hour, the fabulous 60-minute Motorsport 101 special. Andre Harrison, come on down! You are the first contestant in reacting to the Autosport Top 50!
I'm so happy to be here, Bob. Hi guys. Welcome to the Autosport Top 50 edition of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood sufferer, Dre Harrison. And in this episode, well, it's the one that's become its own bit on this show because you guys seem to really like it when my head explodes over these sorts of things. It's the Autosport Top 50 edition. We'll get into the nitty-gritty behind that in a minute, but I want to say hi to my esteemed presenting panel, first and foremost, who already know the pain I'm about to go through. First and foremost, RJ O'Connell. Hello, sir.
Hi. We're gonna try some different things. There may be some games involved. You may have a chance to win some valuable prizes that we can talk about later on today. I'm really excited. You know, it's a new year. It's a new us here at Motorsport 101. Although technically this is kind of the last episode of our season that's bleeding into the new year. But who's counting?
Yeah, it's like, thanks F1 for the really long calendar that put us 2 weeks before Christmas. We're so grateful. Thank God you got that resolved for 2022. Maybe. COVID notwithstanding. Also, with us, Mr. Bing Bong himself, Ryan Eric King. Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm coming down for 20 plus back against Boston to get a nice buzzer beater dub. Hopefully things play out just as well.
Cam's at work doing his real job right now, so he has no defense against this. We can just pile on the Celtics the whole time. I don't even dislike the Celtics. I'm just here for content.
I do. I'm a Lakers fan. By proxy, I have to hate the Celtics, so good. That was hilarious. Bing bong on that, as far as I'm concerned. But hopefully they don't come back and destroy the Knicks when they play again, in 24 hours' time. But, okay. So for those who may be new to the show, every year, Autosport releases their top 50 athletes across the world in motorsport, pound for pound. We go through the list name by name, and I somewhat react to said list because I have never seen it. This happened a few years ago where everyone has seen the list except me. And it's just kind of grown into its own thing where now I have to actively avoid it every year. And now we get to find out who goes where. And this is going to be interesting because if it's anything like the previous few years, there's going to be some questions asked about some of the placings on this list. But hey, that's part of the fun. I don't know what's coming. And let me just say as a disclaimer, I genuinely do not know what's on this list. I say this every year as a disclaimer.
It's a hard thing to do because Autosport Magazine decided to just release the whole list for free, but you do have to, but the explanations why are now paywalled. Used to be like they give you the top 10 for free and then they put the rest behind a paywall. So, yeah, it's different this year. I'll tell you that last year we tried doing this, and the thought of Valtteri Bottas in the middle of a terrible season, ranking 12th, was just so egregious that it caused the entire master tapes of that episode to be burned up. We don't know where they are. We still don't know where they are. It was that bad. It was that egregious that Valtteri Bottas was 12th?
12th.
But to say, because I was willing to walk away, do the bit where I just I'm going to step outside, get myself some coffee, take a walk, and then I'll come back when everything else is on fire and just smile smugly.
Yeah. It's somewhere in the space-time continuum. Maybe it'll be a plot line in Doctor Who season 35 or something like that. It'll just randomly come up out of nowhere, and I've transformed into some sort of alien in a Mercedes race suit or something. I don't know.
I mean, Mario Kart 9. But maybe. Who knows?
Who knows? But Before we get into the list, let's get some general housekeeping out of the way. Places you can find us real quick. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. If you have to follow our Twitter handles personally, they're on the screen right now. If you're not listening via video, you can at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, at Ryan Eric King. And if you want Cam, when he's normally on the show, he's at CBuckley917. All of those details, as well as our Instagram and our Patreon, is also on our website, Motorsport101, where you got all the podcasts, all our written pieces, and all our videos are all on there as well. As you can see, RJ showing it off there, beautifully done on mobile as well. We got dark mode now and everything. It's fun. Who doesn't love a good dark mode?
We got cookie preferences and everything.
Yeah, it's great. There's a GDPA on there and everything. It's wonderful. So you check all that out on our website, motorsport101.com as well. So, without further ado, we can put this off no longer. Time for pain and the Autosport Top 50. Now, from what I've been told here, King is going to go through 50 to 31 as per normal. The fun stuff gets to the top 30, but for now, King, when you're ready.
It's all yours. So, first on our list is this year's Asian Formula 3 champion, but you probably better know him as being third in this year's edition of the Formula 2 Championship and driving for Sauber Alfa Romeo next year in 2022, number 50, Guan Yu Zhao.
Now that's interesting. Now, again, the first few picks are always the most interesting because you got to set the yardstick. Like, what's the entry point? What's the point of entry to get in here? So I can't really respond too much to that one yet. But Guan Yu Zhou being number 50 is interesting. Like, I know he didn't have an amazing Formula 2 season, but he was pretty damn solid. So that's interesting that he's number 50. Okay. Let's get a couple more out before I start really reacting to this. Go on, King.
Okay, so number 49. Number 49 was runner-up in this year's Spa 24 Hours, and also third in DTM this year. Number 49 is Calvin Vanderlinda.
Okay, Calvin Vanderlinda. Yeah, I've made an effort to watch a bit more sports cars this year, and, you know, Calvin Vanderlinda is a very, very good driver. So, you know, again, it's hard. I'm not the authority on sports cars. If Cam was here, he'd probably be saying, why isn't he 10 spots higher? But, like, because I know what Cam's like. But that seems okay. It doesn't seem too egregious to me so far.
Nah.
Crack on,
It's
King.
also important to point out that, like, DTM drivers I feel are going to get a bit of a deduction because this is no longer a super silhouette touring formula like it once was. Their performance is not comparable to F1 cars with roofs on them anymore. So keep that in mind.
Point. Yeah. Go on, King.
Okay, so number 48 on our list is another GT driver, this year's champion in World Challenge Endurance, number 48, Dries Van Thorn.
Dries Van Thorn? Okay, I see the ballpark here. Okay. Nothing too crazy so far. I'm okay with this so far. There's nothing that's made me raise an eyebrow yet, so I guess that's a good start. Okay.
This first batch of 10 seems to be where we get, like, our token one-off inclusions from the kind of mid-tier championships.
I'm still waiting for the obligatory, here we put the BTCC champion mark. Normally it's like high 30s. See, I've learned some tricks from the list over the years. But carry on, King.
On that note.
Yeah, on that note.
Oh no,
number 47, our World Rallycross champion and champion in the inaugural season of Extreme E, Johan Kristoffersen at 47.
That seems low.
Yeah,
that seems low.
He actually moved up 2 places from last year.
I know, and I think I mentioned that during the 2020 before we ended up recording. I was like, that seems low for Kristoffersen. Like, I don't know how these guys are going to evaluate Extreme E. As for context, obviously, because they're a brand new series that started up this year, it's a raid series, so it's just like, But Rallycross, I think, deserves a bit better than fringe entry on the top 50, as far as I'm concerned.
And they don't mention it in the piece, but this is Johan Kristofferson's 4th consecutive World Rally Championship. It is over 5 years because he did sit a year out. But yeah, he won 4 of these championships in a row.
And he's barely making the list at like 47. Like what's the man gonna do? Racing Formula 3? It's just it's brutal. That seems low to me. Yeah, carry on, King.
Okay, so 56 in
46.
our list. 46 on our list.
Yeah. Valentino.
The Rossi number.
Ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah, it is our Asian Le Mans Series champion and European Le Mans Series champion, Ye.
Ye is a driver that Sasha, one of our community members, is very high on. Was exceptional in his first year of LMP2 racing. When you win both the regional LMP2 titles that ACO sanctions in your first year like that, suffice to say, you have tremendous upside. He is the highest ranked Chinese driver on this list, amazingly, above the guy that's going to Formula 2, going to Formula 1.
And honestly, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Again, my sports car knowledge is limited, but I know he was spectacular this year, and I don't think you normally see those sort of regional title guys in the top 50, so I'm completely fine with that. Okay, yeah, crack on, King.
Okay, on to 45. We have our... I can't even say World Championship because it isn't a World Championship. Our FIA World Touring Car Cup winner, Jan Urlacher.
Pass. I don't even know how we feel about WTCR at this point. It's just sort of there, isn't it?
I won't go out of my way to watch it, but if you win back-to-back titles at the age of 25 in this discipline, suffices he's talented. It's just a shame that he's doing this in an era where it's just things are weird. Lincoln Co. are sinking in like DTM money into a touring car category that is specifically built towards amateurs that they just shoehorn professionals into.
And for the most part, no one knows who Jan Urlacher or Lincoln Co. are.
I know who his teammate Santiago Urrutia is.
Yeah. Oh, our Indy Lights friend and yours. Yeah, again, I'm not sure where TCR even fits into the ladder at this point. It's a strange one, but okay, we'll go with that. Yep, next up, King.
Yep. Somebody might recognize.
Yep, next up, number 44, our World Endurance Champion in the LMP2 category, and 5th in Formula E this year, Robin Friends.
Robin! Okay. That seems about right. I'm okay with that. Mid-40s, wins in LMP2 and was another solid. Formula E is going to be a weird one. It's going to be a bit of a crapshoot because that season was all over the place in Formula E this year. That was a wild one to say the least. But again, that feels okay. That feels fine. Okay. Yep, crack on, King.
Moving on, number 43 on the list, this year's British Touring Car Champion, Ash Sutton.
There it is! There it
is! The two Touring Car Champions, only separated by, a spot on the list.
Yeah. And they put the BTCC one higher, because of course they would. To be fair, this is not like previous years where I remember Colin Turkington being mid-30s at one point, and I was like, hang on a minute. It's okay.
They may have to move him up at some point, because this is his 3rd title in the last 5 years, and he's one away from the all-time record, which I'm amazed that the all-time record is still 4, and Turkington's a joint record holder of it.
Because the BTCC is not a championship. It is a punch up where eventually a race breaks out towards the end of the season. So yeah, dominance in that series is very, very hard to do. I'm not the biggest BTCC watcher in the world, but I know Sutton is very, very good at it. So yeah, that actually seems a little bit low for Sutton, especially given it's a British publication. They normally gas the crap out of the BTCC. So I'm actually quite surprised. I thought it would be in the mid-30s again. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised he's a little bit lower down. Fair enough. Yep, go on, King.
Yep. Okay. Next on the list, 9th in the NTT Data IndyCar Series. We got Will Power.
Ooh.
He is down at 12 spots.
Yeah, Will Power fell a little bit, but he still made the top 50 off the strength of, a win in the Brickyard Indy Grand Prix in August.
Yeah, I was going to say, Power was going to take a hit because this was a rough season by Will Power's standards. Again, I'm actually surprisingly okay with this. It was I knew Power was going to take a whack. I didn't think it was going to be as much as 12 spots, but I can't really argue with that logic. It sounds pretty sound to me. I'm actually pleasantly surprised we're nearly 10 in, and only one's even gotten a raised eyebrow, and that was Christopherson. I'm surprised. Tony in the chat's shouldn't be here. Get him out. He actually thinks they were still too generous. Again. I guess I'm being quite modest about this. Who would have thunk it? Even Zoe in the chat, who's the biggest Will Power fan I know, was quote, not sure if Will should be on the list this year, sadly. I get it. I totally get it. So, I can get the
wait till we start seeing the F1 guys on the list.
I'm okay with that. I can understand why someone might think it'd be even harsher.
Yeah, I'd say wait until we start seeing the F1 guys on the list. Okay, so next on the list at 41, our Formula 3 champion this year, Dennis Hauger.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting one. So Formula 3 high 40s. For their series champion.
Yeah.
And Hauger was pretty damn dominant in Formula 3 as well. So, again, I think that's about right. Maybe a little low, but I'm not getting big angry this is egregious sort of vibes here. I think that's a little low, but I'm actually kind of okay with that too. Am I crazy here?
It is worth pointing out that last year's Formula 3 champion, Oscar Piastri, was 43rd on the list, which is interesting because Piastri was a first-year champion, Hauger a second-year champion. Tremendous improvement from year one to year two.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Massive improvement. So, yeah.
41 to 43 in this contest is, weird.
Yeah, I was going to say if I forgot that Piastri was 43rd last year, so that makes perfect sense. So if you've established the bar for Formula 3 as being high 40s, then fair enough. I can't really argue with that. Then, Kerrigan.
All right,
okay.
Batch 10.
Yep. Okay, so number 40 on the list. Shouldn't be too surprised, but based off of last year, maybe I should be surprised. Second in Super GT, and second in Super Formula. Number 40, Naray Fukuzumi.
Look how excited RJ is. Look how giddy he is right now.
It was his breakout year across both championships. He got his first Super Formula win, doubled up on victories, actually. Made a solid late season run towards the Super GT title. Well, the driver may or may not be on their list, I don't know. But suffice to say, if you remember him from his one terrible year in Formula 2 at Arden, he's a much better driver than that.
Yeah. I'm glad RJ took that one because obviously I am not a big Super GT or Super Formula guy. I think RJ's just happy that Japan's back on the list. But yeah, fair enough. Yeah, carry on, King 39.
Okay, 39. 39, we got our first Formula One driver on the list, 12th in the World Drivers' Championship, Sebastian Vettel. So I should point out, Vettel was not on the list last year.
We're back! We're back, baby! It's nice! Well, look, it's good to be back, first and foremost. That's nice. It's nice to get a little bit of recognition. Look, we got to see where some of the other F1 guys are at before I really get into that, but again, it seems, obviously, if F1 being the pinnacle series, it's going to get probably most of its drivers in there in some way, shape or form. If Vettel's the yardstick for F1, then I think that's about right. Because when I did my top 10 piece on the website for Drivers of the Year, Vettel was pretty much smack dab in the middle. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with 39. It was a good season from Seb. I don't think it was a great season from Seb by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm okay. This is going surprisingly well so far. I'd say that with bated breath, but I'm okay with Seb at 30 or 39. Okay.
Okay.
Go on, King. Kick me in the dick. You know it's coming.
Okay, so next up on our list, I had to just... It's been such a long time since the Formula E season had ended, I had to remind myself that this driver was second in the championship, number 38, Eduardo Mortara.
Okay! Edo! Wow. That's
Feels really
interesting.
low.
That does feel low. Oh no! Hang on. I know Formula E was chaotic as all hell this past year, but runner-up in its champion, which is now a world championship. Let's not forget, it's now a world championship as well. Runner-up at 38?
I feel like I have to read this excerpt of
Go
this
for it.
subsection in the article they wrote about this choice, where subheadline, why FE drivers are ranked lower in 2021.
Oh! They anticipated this.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on.
So, quote, no Formula E driver in this edition of the Autosport Top 50 comes close to matching the dizzyingly high rankings of Antonio Felix Acosta last year or Jean-Eric Vergne in 2018. Partly that's because not one of their cases was strong enough on performance alone, but largely because of the stature of each championship plays a defining role. It's extremely unlikely that a British touring car champion, no matter how impressive a year they've had, and whatever records they might have set, will enter the top 10. And the Formula E cohort has fallen victim to this factor to slide down the order as the series did not enjoy a vintage year. So pretty much to sum up, these drivers are ranked low because we don't like Formula E. We don't take it as a serious championship.
We didn't like how things played out, and we're going to take it out on the drivers in this rankings.
Yeah, it's like
they point out they point out group qualifying, they point out the disqualifications, they point out like the red flag rules, like the on-track product, the high amounts of safety cars.
That seems harsh when the drivers have got little to do with that. Like, it's not Mortara's fault the series had a couple of really bad moments in it that was not to... Like, that's not... He's not the reason why the series was... The reason the series had a down year this year. So, like, punishing the drivers for that on a pound-for-pound ranking seems a bit harsh to me. I get it to a degree because it was a chaotic championship where it was ultra competitive and everybody was really close. But I don't know. I still think like the series deserves a little bit more recognition than that, per se. Like if your runner-up is barely in the top 40, I think that's harsh, personally. That's my feeling anyway. But
yeah, pretty
we'll,
much.
We'll see where the champion ends up, and then I'll really go
saying that.
Yeah, go okay.
Yeah, to paraphrase their last sentence, they say it's tough to predict whether Formula E will recover to become the second highest highly regarded FIA World Championship, competing against the WRC and the WEC.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. If you insist. Okay.
Yeah, it's wild in the entire article. Yeah, it's wild in the entire article. They don't even mention Motara. They outside the first sentence, they don't mention him by name.
It's like, okay, here's Motara. Okay. We know this is bad. Let us explain. Oh dear. It's like, okay, fair enough. Well, at least they anticipated the backlash, I suppose.
Or lack thereof, since this list has been out for over a month and no one said anything. Okay, so next on the list, yes. Number 37, number 37, our IMSA DPI champion, Felipe Nasr.
Okay. Yeah. Again, that doesn't seem too bad. I know. Again, I've got nothing but respect for IMSA, and I know they put on a good product, and it's a competitive series for the most part. Seems about right for an IMSA champ. I don't think that's too crazy, but that's my hunch. Okay, yeah, I'm largely cool with that. Let's push on.
Okay. Okay, so 36 on the list. Third in the World Rally Championship for Hyundai, Thierry Neuville. Which,
wasn't this a bit of a down year for Neuville? Like, I'm not the biggest rally guy, but I think it's been mentioned in our Discord that Neuville had a down year.
He was down 13 places from where he was in 2020.
Yeah.
There you go. A bigger drop than willpower. Wow. Okay. Jesus. Yeah. I know we had a bit of a down year, so again, that makes sense. I know Neuville's quite highly regarded by these guys. So yeah. Again, I'm actually surprised. We're like 15 in, and I'm like, there's only been a couple of like humdingers so far. Maybe when we get a little bit higher, it will start to leap off the page a bit more. But yeah, I think that's about right for Neuville, given he had a bad year by his standards. So yeah, next up, King.
Next up, second in DPI and IMSA this year, the Daytona 24 winner, and fifth in the World Endurance Championship in the LMP2 category, 35, Felipe Albuquerque.
Again?
Which is interesting compared to where they put Nasr.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. You put Nasr like 2 spots below him. Like, that sounds a bit off. Is it the WEC giving him extra points here? Is that it? Like, so
maybe, because he did win 2 of his first races this year. He won Spa, he missed Algarve, but then won at Monza. That United Autosports team was genuinely competitive throughout the season, although they did not end up winning the championship. It was a pretty close fight all the way. And if he hadn't missed that race, he would have been higher up the rankings. And it was a close fight for the IMSA DPI championship, too. There was hardly a lot to split him, but I guess they gave it to him for winning the biggest race of the season, and doing so in pretty impressive fashion.
Sure. Okay, I can get behind that. That's a compelling argument. Yeah, go on, King.
Yeah. Okay, so next driver, 34th on the list, second in DTM, 9th in Formula 2 this year, Liam Lawson.
Ooh, now that's interesting. That's one of the first real like interesting rankings. Yeah, like so Lawson. I think he's probably a bit better than his Formula 2 overall mark suggests. From having watched him on the eye test, I think Lawson's a bit better than that. I think he's going to be one to watch in Formula 2 for the title this year. Combine that with a DTM title he was arguably yanked out of prime position to win. I know they've been very high on DTM winners before. I remember Pascal Wehrlein being top 10 a few years ago. On balance, it makes sense. Like, just about. Like, I think it's a little high, but I could just about get behind that, I think.
Yeah.
It seems a little high. But I'm not lighting a pitchfork over it, because he should have probably been DTM champion by the end of the year, and that would have definitely got him. If he wins the DTM...
Pretty much, they gave him this position on that assumption.
Yeah.
Like, quote, Maximilian Götz may have officially earned a place among DTM's Hall of Fame, but Lawson was the moral champion.
I find it amazing that Autosport used the line "moral champion" in a hardcore piece. That's amazing. But yeah, I can't really argue with that. And if he was the moral, and he was moral champion in DTM this year, we all saw how that season ended. It's not like it caught on or anything, but but yeah, they've ranked DTM quite highly before, so I can understand the logic behind that one. Fair enough. I think it's a little high, but given, hardcore results mean hardcore results, but yeah, I get it. It's a little crazy. Go on, okay.
Okay, so next driver on the list, number 33, a Grand Prix winner this year and 11th in the World Drivers' Championship, Esteban Ocon.
Interesting. Okay. So, from what I have from the F1 top 10, because I had Ocon 8th on the top 10 on my list, so he was higher than Vettel. I wonder if Sergio Perez will be higher up on the board later. That's going to be interesting. To see. And I wonder if Fernando's going to be up there again, because they've always liked Fernando at Autosport HQ. But yeah, I think Ocon was really, really good this year in Formula One. Yeah, that race win was like a nice little overall reward for a well-driven season where he was pretty much dead level with Fernando pretty much all year long. So, yeah, I'm fine with that personally. I'm fine with that. Nice to get some recognition. I had him in my top 10 for F1 personally, so I'm completely fine with him being above Vettel. And yeah, that actually does seem about right. So cool. This is going annoyingly well so far. Go on, King.
Well, next driver on the list, 32nd, second in the World Endurance Championship, and 21st in Formula E, Sebastian Vladimi.
Hang on a minute.
Can you tell which result played a higher role in determining Sebastian Vladimi's rank? Which, by the way, he's down 16 places from 2020.
I was going to say, they like Buemi in Autosport's ranking, so they did slash him, but it's still, they probably didn't slash him enough, is the hunch.
He finished second in the World Endurance Championship.
Yeah, it's the WEC. It was it depends. How much do you value the WEC given their competitive balance problems at the moment? It's a work in progress.
Hey, there's no problem. Glickenhaus is just slow.
As Logic alluded to, I think the WEC weighting saved him from maybe a cut off the top 50 entirely, because he was pretty woeful in Formulary this year. But yeah, like, again, he drives for Toyota in the WEC. That's a given, really.
Yeah, there's pretty much just one sentence here that sums up his whole year.
Sure.
The Swiss failed to record a podium in FE and finished outside the top 4 in points for the first time, but he was the fastest Toyota driver across the WEC season.
People love racer metrics.
They do love racer metrics, and yes, the WEC is still quite prestigious, so yeah, fair enough. I think there was only one of about 5 people in Formulary who didn't have a podium finish this year, which is crazy to say the least. Yeah, okay, yeah, I think it's still a bit high, but like, again, I'm not burning stuff to the ground over it, because the WEC is still the WEC. And they basically just said he was probably the fastest driver in the sport in the WEC this year, so fair enough. So yeah, last one of the regular inductions, King, take it away, 31.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna open up with the words that they did to open up this article. Number 31. Long build is rallying's next big thing. Many feel the newest flying Finn is destined to become a World Rally Champion in the near future. 4th in the World Rally Championship this year, Calais Rovanpera.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. They've gone for the future potential value on that one, haven't they? Yeah, okay. Again, it seems I'm not the biggest rally guy either, but that doesn't seem too egregious at first glance. All the impression I'm getting is Kristofferson was ranked far too low again. That's the impression that I'm getting here as we get into the top 30. Kristofferson got screwed. Yeah. Overall, again, this is probably the most calm I've been through 20 picks of all the years I've done this. So,
all right,
RJ, top 30.
So what I decided to do is I wanted to gamify portions of this, and I guess I decided, let's get through 30 through 3 at least, because I want to get to. I just want to lay it out here. You probably know how the top 2 are, but we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. For now, let's get into the top 10, and I'd like to start with a little game. We have selected 4 drivers out of the same championship within this bracket of 10 drivers, and your challenge to guess where within this bracket of drivers from 30th to 21st that they rank. I will go in the order in which they finished in the Formula One World Championship, which should give you a clue as to what drivers we're looking into. We have in this bracket, not 12th, Valtteri Bottas. We have Sergio Perez.
Okay.
So we have Bottas and Perez. We also have a Grand Prix winner in Daniel Ricciardo. Ooh. And we have one Fernando Alonso.
This is actually going to be quite tricky, like, in the sense of, like, Ricciardo, like, was brilliant in F1 in 2020, so I think he was, like, 11th or something last year, so he's bound to, obviously, he's guaranteed to have come down a bit, but how far down? And then Bottas is definitely not going to be on the higher end of this list, but then was Perez better than him? This is actually quite hard. Let me give this some thought real quick. Okay, I think the order will be from lowest to highest. I'm going to go Ricciardo, Bottas, Perez, Fernando. That's my order.
Okay. All right. So you're going in order, Ricciardo, Bottas, Perez, Alonso.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go through the list. So at number 30, you had corrected, in fact, the highest dropper, the lowest dropper on this list. Daniel Ricciardo down 23 spots from 7th to 30th.
Oh my God.
Yes! Go me! Yes! I'll take that. Thank you very much.
You have won 100 credits for your successful guess.
Beautiful, wonderful. I can spend that on watching Squid Game on Netflix.
Right.
So yeah, Ricciardo down 23. That, you know what, he was. I don't want to say he was dreadful in Formula One this year, but he did get comprehensively beaten by Lando Norris. So, yeah, I had a feeling he'd be coming down that list quite hard. So fair enough. Yeah, carry on, RJ. You've got names to get through.
Right. In case you're wondering where this puts him in the ballpark of, number 29 on the list, another huge faller, is Scott Ditson at 29.
Wow! Ditson wasn't even that bad in IndyCar this year. I know Dixon's levels are normally otherworldly. So for him to just have an okay season has put him down 20 plus spots or something like that. That's crazy. Okay, so Ditson, sure. I can see why he's come down a fair chunk. Yeah.
It puts him in the ballpark of a brand new entry, the other half of the Super GT runner-ups, and your newly crowned Super Formula champion, the first to clinch before the final race meeting of the season in 12 years, Tomoki Nojiri. The best-kept secret in Japanese motorsport at the top level until this year. That's really good for him. I really love that.
Yeah, great to get some Japanese motorsport recognition in general, because the 2020 list, if you've ever seen that, did not. So yeah, glad it's got some mentions in there. Yeah, definitely. Yep, crack on, RJ.
Martin Truex Jr. at number 27 for finishing runner-up in the NASCAR Cup Series Championship.
Interesting. I always get intrigued whenever the NASCAR names start coming in. I wonder how many more NASCAR guys are going to get mentioned, because I have a bad feeling that one of them is going to be in single digits this year. We'll see how that goes. That might have been foreshadowing. Again, I promise you I've not seen this. This is just logic coming out of my head. But Truex Jr., sure, fair enough. Okay. Again, all right. Seems about right. Go on.
All right. And then that leads us to number 26, our reigning and defending World Endurance Drivers Champion in LMP1, and 1/3 of the team that won the 24 Hours of Le Mans overall, your brand new Toyota Ace driver and team manager going into 2022, Kamui Kobayashi.
That sounds a little low, actually.
He did re-enter the list.
Yeah, but I'm glad he's there. And number 25 is not bad at all. 26. I mean, that still seems a little low for Kamui. I thought we'd be a little bit higher than that, actually. He was a name I was thinking might be a top 20 guy. So I'm actually a bit surprised he's a bit low. Seems a bit low for Kamui. But yeah.
All right.
Go on, Jay.
All right. I'm going to skip a little bit because in number 23, ahead of this batch of two of these Formula One drivers, is the reigning, defending, undisputed rookie Formula 2 champion, Oscar Piastri.
Whoa! Formula 2 champ 23rd. Okay. That does seem about right. I was thinking loads. I was thinking maybe teens, maybe 2021. So yeah, okay. Piastri, again, that seems a little bit low, but I'm not. Again, I'm surprisingly okay with that too.
All right,
he was excellent in Formula 2. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. For context, Mick Schumacher was 25th on the list last season.
Okay. So yeah, Formula 2 champ tends to go mid-20s. Okay, and I think he was a bit more standout than Mick was in F2 last year. So yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And the 22nd driver behind our highest ranked Formula One driver in this bracket is runner-up in the World Endurance Championship GT Pro category and a part of the winning team at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, Porsche factory driver Kevin Ester.
Yeah, okay. This is annoyingly, alright so far from Autosport. It's I've not chucked the toy out of the pram yet. It's getting really annoying. I'm but people are probably sitting there disappointed, going, hang on, why isn't Drake kicked off yet? But right. Yeah, again, I don't.
So then that means the other three Formula One drivers.
So question. So where's the other where's the other F1 drivers at then?
They are at 25, 24, and 21. And you guessed that Ricciardo would be the lowest on the list, and you were right. He was in 30th. Number 25 on the list is Sergio Perez. Down 14th places.
Ooh.
Ahead of Kamui Kobayashi, but below the next two drivers on the list.
So, they had Perez behind Bottas then. That's interesting. Because I think, pound for pound, I think Perez should have been higher. I think given it was year 5 for Valtteri in a Mercedes and it was Perez's first year in a car that's been a bit of a teammate wrecker in the last couple of years or so, I thought Perez deserved a little bit more credit than that. He was 9th on my top 10 F1 list on the website. So I think that's harsh on Perez. I'm not saying he should have been as high as, teens or like low teens as what he was last year, but I think 25 is a little harsh. I think he had a good season for what it's worth. I don't think it was a great season. Probably the fact he got smoked by Verstappen head-to-head is probably what's done him in there, most likely. So, I get it, but what is it with these guys and Bottas? Why do they seem to have mercy on this dude so much? I mean, it's crazy.
I'll get to that because Valtteri Bottas is 21st on the list, which means Fernando Alonso is 24th. So we have Alonso, then Piastre, then Ester, and then Valtteri Bottas ranking in at 21st.
Are they trying to tell me that Bottas had a better season than Fernando Alonso? I don't even like Fernando, but he was pretty damn good in that Alpine this year. They love them some Valtteri. Like at this point, they dropped Bottas 9 spots, even though he's won 1 Grand Prix in the last 2 seasons in a championship-winning car. I don't understand, man. It's like they're rewarding him purely off the Wikipedia slot of where his number is in the championship and then just taking it no further with no added nuance whatsoever. I don't like that pick. I really don't like that pick. I thought Bottas would still be in the top 50 because he's an F1 driver and he wasn't dreadful by any stretch of the imagination. But just outside the top 20? Across all of motorsport? For a guy that still had a couple of really awful weekends in F1 this past year, again, like he had last year, honestly, you could have swapped Ricciardo and Bottas around and I would have been less angry about that. That's a bit weird to me.
Valtteri Bottas.
Justice for Ditson in capital letters.
Yeah. So, Valtteri Bottas, just to confirm, had a better season than Kamui Kobayashi, who did the endurance double, had a better season than Scott Ditson, who led more laps than anybody in the car series, although most of that was Texas, and had a better season than a driver who just climbed the ladder from Formula 3 to Formula 2, winning championships in both, and his reward is being a pit wall ornament at Alpine next season. Dre, your total stands at 100 credits.
Great. Can I catch that in for the cuddly toy in the back row? The one with dust on it.
You could, but now we're going to play our first of 2 rounds of a game called High-Low. I'll name 5 drivers. So we're going to start with 20 through 16. Your task is to guess the drivers that are ranked from in the higher end of this bracket. So basically 18, 17, and 16. I will list them alphabetically, starting with 3rd place in WEC, 8th in Formula E, Antonio Felix da Costa.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
IndyCar Series runner-up, Joseph Newgarden.
Ooh, okay.
3rd place in the IndyCar Series, Patricio Award.
Oh, wow. Award's that low.
World Endurance Championship GT Pro Champion, Spa 24 Hours winner, and GT World Challenge Endurance Cup Champion, Alessandro Pierguidi. And V8 Australian Supercars Champion, Shane Van Gisbergen.
The Giz. The Aussies will be watching on with intrigue. Oh, okay. So run me those just the names one more time, just so I can get them in my head
Again, in alphabetical order, they are DaCosta, Newgarden, Award, Alessandro Pierguidi, and Shane Van Gisbergen.
So, which were the highest three out of those five? Ooh. I want to go Van Gisbergen and both of the IndyCar runners, but I got a feeling they're going to deduct points off Award for how the end of the season ended up playing out.
Well, I will tell you.
I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go. DaCosta, Van Gisbergen, Newgarden. That's what I think.
Is that in order from? Is that in just like any order?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he picked the best three out of the five. I mean, yeah, we'll go with those three.
Dre, you have now won an additional 200 credits for each correct guess. Because Shane Van Gisbergen was 16th, the highest climber, up 31 spots.
Wow.
DaCosta dropped 14 places, but he was still 17th. Joseph Newgarden dropped 12 places to 18th. Patricia Ward was up 15 spots to 19th, and Pierguidi is a new entry.
Yeah, Pierguidi was great. Again, I know he won a hell of a lot in cars this year, so that makes sense. I remember DaCosta was third, and I thought that was a little too high. So I'm glad he's actually been humbled a little bit by coming down. But again, I'm not. Again, that seems a bit much. It seems a steep drop, but still. I'm glad that O'Ward is now top 20. That does make sense. I am definitely okay with that. Newgarden coming down a bit again is fair. You know, it wasn't an amazing season by Newgarden. Like nothing really leapt off the page. Yeah, not like he definitely came through in the second half, but it wasn't peak Newgarden. We've seen better versions of Newgarden than what we got this year. So yeah, again, I'm not actually this is not too bad from Autosport this year. Like. The chat disagrees with me. Say, quote, I will end Autosport. And Zoe say, justice for IndyCar drivers in capital letters. I'm not. Again, I can't get too rigid. Like the Bottas one again for the second year in a row has jumped out at me at one that I think is far too goddamn generous. But this one seems okay for the most part. So RJ, are we going from 11 to 15 next?
That's right. Again, you sit at 700 credits. You can
now
buy
I could almost get the cuddly toy.
Yeah, you can get a much larger cuddly toy, and you can also get a lot more candies. Just like a sickening amount of candies. Our next 5 drivers in this list are in alphabetical order are as follows. Formula E's Rookie of the Year and third in the championship, Jake Dennis.
Wow.
World Rally Championship runner-up, Elfyn Evans. Fourth in the Formula E Championship, and one of our many title contenders going to the final weekend of the season, Mitch Evans.
Oh, wow, Mitch.
Fifth in the IndyCar Series, Colton Herta.
Oh, okay.
And 15th in the Formula One World Championship, and your newest employee at Mercedes-AMG Formula One team, George Russell.
I was waiting for George Russell's name to come out there. I was like, how high is George Russell this year? I was like, it was getting to the point where I was almost going to point out, wait a minute, where the hell is George Russell? Because if Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, and Sergio Perez have all already been mentioned, George has to be here somewhere. For a split second, I thought they didn't put Russell in the top 10, did they? I was like, hang on a minute. Okay. For that logic alone, I kind of have to say George Russell here now, haven't I?
Okay, so George Russell is one of your guesses for any driver. Again, it's 200 credits per driver that you guess correctly. It doesn't have to be in any order. You just have to name who's in the 13th, 12th, and 11th spots.
I'm going to say George Russell. For a down year for Formula E, Jake Dennis and Mitch Evans both being in the top 15 doesn't seem so harsh now, does it? I was going to say.
I
was going to say, like, Jake Dennis nearly had the title in Formula E. So I'm going to say Jake Dennis. I'm going to take Jake Dennis. And you know what? I'll take Mitch, bruh. I have to. It's the show. We have to take free-to-play Evans. We've joked about him on this show numerous times. I'll be doing him a disservice if I didn't pick Mitch Evans. So, Mitch, bruh, come on through. Top 13. How did I do, RJ?
Jake Dennis was 15th as a new entry.
Okay.
Then Colton Herta moved up 8 spots into 14th.
Yeah, seems
Alvin
right.
Evans was 13th. He moved up 16 places. Yeah. And Mitch Evans was 11th, and George Russell was 12th. So you won an additional 400 credits.
George Russell 12th. Wow. Woo.
People love
honestly,
Mr. Saturday.
Like, again, if it really was a down year for Formula E, I'm not sure, like, where the downside was here. Like, because Jake Dennis leaping up off the list into the top 15 doesn't seem all that harsh. In fact, I think that might be a little high for Dennis, actually, on that one. So, I'm not quite seeing that, to be honest with you. That one's a bit weird. Mitch Evans, for me, is a top 3 or 4 driver pound for pound in Formula E, so I'm not going to complain that he's that high up, because he's consistently been pretty damn solid for Jaguar, over the year. So again, that does make some sense. Alvin Evans, again, that's about right. Colton Herta, I think, is one of those, like, Herta seems a little low. I only say this because I am so impressed by Colton Herta in an IndyCar. I think he might be... I've said it on Twitter to people and people that I'm close to in IndyCar. I think Colton Herta's winning the championship this year in IndyCar. So, like, I'm okay with him at 14, because he really... Like, the second half of the year, Colton Herta looked like he was on a different level at times. The way he closed out that season was immense. So I can't get behind Russell at 12. I get it to a degree, because Russell is such a hard guy to rank, because obviously we all know he's better than the equipment he's gotten, but 12th in all of motorsport this past year?
Oh my god, it's happened again! It's happened again!
The 12 spot! The 12 spot is cursed! The 12 spot is just cursed! It's like, it was Bottas last year, it's now the guy taking his role. It's a curse now! It's crazy! Oh, honestly, I thought that Bottas at 12 last year was... I don't think this is as egregious as Bottas being 12 last year, but I really don't think that Russell should be as high as 12. I think that's like giving him every benefit of the doubt you could possibly imagine before going to Mercedes. And even though we all know his biggest highlight last year was an act of God. A literal act of God. So
That Belgian GP qualifying lap in the rain was something spectacular. No,
it was a stonker. It was a stonker, but it wouldn't get you a podium 999 times out of literally 1,000 F1 races. So, it's... Again, I think they've given him every benefit of the doubt you could possibly imagine to get him to 12, and I can't get behind that. Again, I love that they wrote a whole section about Formula E getting screwed, and then, again, like, they have at least 2 dudes in the top 15, and there's probably at least 1 more coming. And I think there's probably 2 more coming, I'd argue, and I'd suspect. So, if it was a down year, I'm failing to see it, personally.
You have to remember that Edo Mortara was second in the championship.
But then Mortara was, like, down the bottom end of the board, so it makes it even more confusing. It's a weird one. It's annoying, but for the reasons I didn't expect. It's actually kind of strange at the same time. But okay. I've just about run my head around all of that. Okay.
You now sit
top
at
10.
1,100 credits. Now, for this next round, correct answers are worth 400 credits, but wrong answers are a 200 credit penalty. So now we're waging a look. We're raising the stakes a little bit. Again, for this next bracket of drivers 10 through 3, because as we stated earlier, you know who the top 2 are, but we don't know in which order. So we're going to guess 4 drivers from the same championship from this bracket, and surprise, surprise, it's Formula 1 again. And your challenge is to guess where they rank lowest to highest.
Okay.
All
Crack
right.
on.
This batch of drivers listed in championship order is Carlos Sainz Jr. Ferrari, Lando Norris of McLaren,
Right.
Charles Leclerc Ferrari,
Yeah.
and Pierre Gasly of Scuderia AlphaTauri.
This is really hard. Because when I was doing my top 10 for F1, these were the 4 spots, 3 through 6. These were the exact 4 drivers on my list between 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this is the one I had the hardest time deliberating over, because there's a lot of different ways you can skin this cat. And given it's like, if it was me, and if it was by my ranking, I had it Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Gasly from lowest to highest. But I don't think Autosport would do it that way. This is a British publication. And people do love them some Lando Norris. Well, maybe until that Instagram picture earlier this week, but
I can't believe Lando Norris is out here having sets, and it's not with me! It's not with me!
oh, we're all disappointed. What can I say? Okay. I'm glad that these 4 made the top 10, because they were, for me, 4 of the 6 best F1 drivers on the year. I think all 4 of them had great seasons in their own right. I'm going to change what my order would have been based on what I think Autosport would do. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go, because he was in the lowest ranked car, I'm going to go Gasly. This is lowest to highest. I'm going to go Gasly, then Leclerc, then Sainz, and then Norris. I think they've put the Brit at the top of the pile. That's what I think they've done. And I think they're going to look at the point standings and they're going to give it to Sainz, even though I think Leclerc was better this year. That's my hunch.
Okay. All right. So we start at the top 10 with the driver who was 4th last season and now drops to 10th. Pierre Gasly was the lowest in this bracket of Formula 1 drivers. Wow. You have won 400 credits. Do you want to know where that...
It's amazing how Pierre Gasly had objectively a better season than he had last year, and he dropped 6 spots. Like, that's brutal. Like, Gasly was even better this year than he was last year.
Should have won a race, but don't know what to tell you.
It's like, man didn't win a race this year. Send him down. It's a strange one, but yeah, like, for what it's worth, out of the 4 on my list, I had Gasly as the highest of the 4, so I find that a little bit wild that he was automatically put lower than those guys. But it's a shame. But I had a feeling they were going to do that with AlphaTauri. So yeah, that does make some sense. But I think that's low for Gasly. If Gasly was in the top 6, I wouldn't have complained at all. I think that's a little low for Gasly, to be fair. But yeah, carry on, RJ.
Yeah. In case you wish to know, the next 2 drivers on this list are a part-timer in the WEC that finished 5th in the standings, despite that, in the LMP2 class. This driver he didn't race full-time, but he did finish 5th in the ELMS championship. And he is also your reigning defending undisputed Formula E champion, Nick Devries. Nick Devries ahead of Pierre Gasly.
So there's the Autosport Formulary penalty. They put the overall champion only in the 9 spot rather than Da Costa, who I think was, third last year. So, that's where the penalty came into play. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now, which is a shame because Nick was really good when it counted. And that was the kicker in Formulary this year, and again, a really, really madhouse season. So, okay, that's... But, again, this is where I think Formulary should probably top out anyway, so I'm not going to pretend like this is like a mad low ranking or anything like that. So, that seems about right for Nick de Vries. Okay. In which case, poor Stoffel, by the way. But, someone pour one out for King and Stoffel season over there, because my boy keeps getting done dirty. Carry on, RJ.
I would like to go ahead and discuss 8th on our list as the highest new entry on the board. Your reigning, defending, undisputed NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Larson, ahead of Nick de Vries and ahead of Pierre Gasly, but behind the next Formula One driver on our list.
Oh. Now, that's interesting. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think that's low for Kyle Larson. I really do. This burns every fibre of my soul, may I just point out, for obvious reasons. But that was one of the better NASCAR seasons of all time, by any metric and any measure. If Lawson was like 3 or 4, I'd have been like, I can argue that. You could probably form a compelling argument for that. Yeah. Like, we joked about it on our Discord servers, like, we literally would go, we just can't beat this guy, and that's what it felt like watching Kyle Larson in NASCAR this year. No matter which way you slice it, he was absolutely incredible in NASCAR this year. So I actually think 8 is low, amazingly, for...
I want to put that into context, though. Kevin Harvick was the highest-ranked NASCAR driver on last year's list. He was 14th. The actual champion, Chase Elliott, was 28th. But that's also, evidence that in most cases, the best driver in the regular season does not get rewarded in the playoffs. This is one of those rare cases where the best driver in the regular season actually did close the deal in the playoffs.
He did. Yeah, look, as a driver, Lawson was phenomenal this year. Absolutely insane. He was a contender on our award show for Driver of the Year, and there was a compelling argument you could make that he was up there alongside the big 2 in F1. So look, I as purely as a pundit with a functioning brain who has some wheel knowledge, 8 seems low to me on that one. That's what my gut is telling me, even though my brain hates it. So yeah, I think that's actually low for Lawson. But yeah. Carry on, RJ.
Our next Formula One driver, you had selected Charles Leclerc being in this spot, which is 7th.
Mm-hmm.
It is Carlos Sainz Jr. So we're going to have to take 200. We're going to have to deduct 200 credits.
Interesting. Honestly, fair play Autosport, because I thought people were going to look at the championship leaderboard, see Carlos Sainz and the best of the rest, and just immediately go, yeah, we're going to take Carlos Sainz there, because everybody has, and their mother, and I made this point, I called it the Hulkenberg complex in my article, where it was like, when everybody and your mother says you're underrated, you're not underrated. Okay? To be fair, a part of me is glad that Carlos Sainz is basically getting what I like to call back pay for the previous years where he should have been this high. So I'm kind of glad he's getting the due credit for that now. It's late, but it's better late than never. But I actually thought they'd be a bit more naive and just take the guy based on the higher championship ranking. So I'm actually genuinely glad I was wrong on this one. So yeah, I'm completely fine with Carlos Sainz in that spot. I think that's pretty much spot on as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that's fine by me.
Before we get into settling who between Norris and Leclerc ranked higher, let's talk about number 5 on the list. Your reigning, defending, undisputed NTT Data IndyCar Series champion, the Chicken Man himself, Alex Palou Montalvo, in the top 5.
I love that. I love that. I think that's spot on. I think that's pretty much nailed on. IndyCar's always a bit about how they put IndyCar champions on, but Palou was so goddamn good this year. So goddamn good. So consistent. So excellent. For a second-year guy in the series just to be that good against such an incredibly talented field. Top 5 is absolutely fine. Again, you could have gone 5-4-3. I'd have been completely fine with that. So, yeah, I'm actually okay with that one. So, Alex Palou 5, yeah, excellent. Glad he's there, and yeah, that's more than deserved for an incredible season. I hope Zoe, more importantly, in the chat approves of that one, because I know she's been screaming about justice for IndyCar drivers all podcast long. So, I think 5 is fair. Don't come after them, Zoe. Don't set the office on fire. Mostly because they're all working from home, but please don't set the office on fire anyway. I think 5 is fair. I think that's fair.
Unless you are a detractor of the FIA World Rally Championship, in which case you may be disappointed to know, but if you're a big rally fan, you'll be glad to know that Sebastian Ogier, your 8-time champion of the world, is in the number 4 spot.
He's just one of the greatest of all time, isn't he? What more needs to be said about the greatness of Ogier than that hasn't already been said? Yeah. I know they tend to put World Rally Champion top 5 by proxy, so yeah, again, that's completely fine by me. That's absolutely fine. Ogier, he's just one of the goats, isn't he? I mean, I don't need to go into detail about that. That's absolutely spot on. Also, Zoe does approve of the IndyCar pick, so the offices are safe. Luke, don't come after me, okay? I know you're out there. But your offices is fine, I promise. Ogier 4, absolutely fine. So
54 wins for 4 different manufacturers.
Pretty good.
And titles with 3 of those 4. You could almost make a compelling argument that's even more impressive than Loeb's sheer numbers that he compiled with one manufacturer. Sure.
Yeah. That adaptability, that's a variability. It's always valuable. We love that in motorsport when it comes to ranking dudes. And I know as a MotoGP fan, we love that shit. I'll tell you that for free. That totally makes sense. So are we settling the F1 argument here of what order they ended up then?
Lando Norris was 3rd, and Charles Leclerc was 6th. 1 spot ahead of Sainz.
Yes! Yeah. I will take that. I had a feeling they'd put Norris 3rd.
Bringing your total back to 1,500 credits.
Good, I can almost buy that pencil sharpener. Look, as a quick note aside, I did have Norris higher than Leclerc in my rankings as well, so I am largely okay with that. I think Norris had an argument to be number 1 until about Sochi, so I can't begrudge them. I think 3's a little on the high side because I think his season did tail off a little bit towards the end. He was
up 19 places from last year. It does have to be said.
He's definitely better than 22. There's no doubt about that. I wasn't sure if I'd go quite as high as 3, mind you, given some of the superpowers that are in motorsport this year. But he was pretty great this year. If you're an argument guy for driver of the year for at least half the season, you're going to be in the top 10 most likely, especially given you're in F1, and F1 guys would always rank highest on an Autosport list. So, yeah, I'm actually quite proud I was able to guess that one on the nose there. So I will take that. I'm glad that they ended up going with something similar to how I had it in the end. But I give them some partial credit here, which is something I never thought I'd do on this episode. But here we are. So then.
Right. Before I turn it over to King for the top 2, I would like to give an honorable mention to drivers who just missed the cut. So who we don't have is IndyCar drivers like Romain Grosjean and Marcus Ericsson. Did not make the list.
That's a shame. That was great.
Kamui Kobayashi made the list, but his teammates Mike Conway and Jose Maria Lopez did not.
That's harsh.
Sebastian Vladimi made the list, but his teammates Brendan Hartley and Kazuki Nakajima, now retired, did not. Maximilian Gertz did not make the list as the DTM champion. Teo Porcher and Robert Schwartzman from Formula 2 did not make the list.
It's interesting that Zhou made the list and Schwartzman didn't. That I find interesting. Because I've always said Schwartzman's got more upside in him than Zhou does. But, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, those are some of the notable omissions. Like Tanak from the WRC did not make the list.
That did surprise me.
Yeah, but I feel it is only right that I turn this back over to Ryan Eric King to settle the debate of whether or not Autosport thought Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen was a better driver in 2021.
I said, just before you go, King. I'm just going to ask. Before you saw the list, who did you think they were going to put number one?
Exactly how it played out. It's exactly how I thought it was going to happen. Okay. So this is the moment. This is the moment where I have to guess which one was number one, don't I?
And I'm going to raise the stakes for a bit. This is going to be an all or nothing thing. You want to wager all 1,500 of your credits? A double or nothing, basically.
You know, I found the daily double. I'm going to go full James Holzhauser. I'm shoving. I'm going all in.
You're going all in.
I want the remote controlled car for 3,000 credits on the side. It's got my name written on it. I'm shoving all in. My brain is telling me that they're gonna put Hamilton number one anyway. Even though in my head and in my heart, and if I was in charge of this list, my number one pick would be Verstappen. I love that King is laughing his head off in the background because he knows and I don't, and I hate this now. Do I go with what I would have done, or do I go with what I think Autosport would do? Because, this is tough. Because, you know what it is? They used the word moral champion earlier with Liam Lawson. And I think they may argue that Lewis Hamilton was the moral F1 champion. And F1 champion normally ends up number one. Very rarely doesn't that happen. Oh, this is tough.
Well, I should point out, you have to remember when this list came out.
It came out before the finale, didn't it?
Yep.
That does not help. That does not help. God, because Hamilton was on fire going into the final round of the season as well. Oh. Okay. If Regis Philbin was on the opposite end of the table, God rest his soul. Final answer, Lewis Hamilton.
If Regis Philbin was across the table, at this point we would build up the suspense.
Yeah.
And then we would cut to commercial, leaving you hanging for 5 more minutes just so we could build up additional suspense.
It's like that clip that the one when already goes, I'm a fat man, Regis, my heart can't take it. Oh God. King, who was it? I can't look.
Okay. So, number 2 on the list. The World Drivers' Champion, Max Verstappen, meaning number 1. Yes! Number 1 is Lewis Hamilton.
I just won both showcases! Let's go! Let's go! I went against my gut. Do you know how hard that is? Oh no! I want that remote control car! Give it to me! Yes! Oh God. Well, look. I've echoed, even from before this finale, when this list was originally published, that either man would have been a worthy world champion. But in my humble opinion, I think Verstappen was the better driver this year. And I will stand by that opinion. I think Hamilton was just a little bit clumsier with the car this year, like Imola, like Baku, that was self-inflicted, like Silverstone, that was ultimately his fault. Getting out qualified by George Russell at Spa. I think when you look at it with the finest of tooth combs, I think Max was the better driver this year. I think Max just made less errors on the year. I think he was suffocating. I think there's going to be more of a surprise element because we didn't think Red Bull was going to be this good. It's not that I don't think Hamilton doesn't deserve the number one spot. There, you could probably craft an argument one way or another to put Hamilton number one, but I think Verstappen was the better man this year, and I think ultimately he deserved the title, even if you ignore the way we got there. So, for me, I think they got that the wrong way round, personally, and I can't say I'm surprised that Autosport put Hamilton number one at all. I'm actually surprised that that was not spoiled for me. I genuinely, I did not see people talking about who was number one. I was actually surprised, especially given how, I guess there wasn't talk about it because in the eyes of F1 Twitter, the right man was number one. So I guess that's probably wasn't any backlash over it. But I'm not entirely surprised that Autosport had number one.
You want me to read the excerpt of Autosport's reasoning for the order?
Sure, go for it.
You can stop me if I read something that seems like too far out of line that you just can't hold it anymore. But during a run of form where Verstappen seemed irresistible, who had had our top 50 wasn't a debate. The Dutchman was clearly the best driver. But that view slowly changed. It really started after the Monza crash with Lewis Hamilton, because that ugly incident extended a run of clashes between the pair where Verstappen had been overly aggressive. At Imola, Hamilton had been trying to hang out around the outside line, for Verstappen is ruthless in seeing him off the road, as was his right. But at Barcelona, his turn one pass required Hamilton to turn out of contact. At Silverstone, the roles were reversed, with Hamilton rightly penalized, but it was a close call. At Monza, both had a chance to back out, but it's Verstappen's unwillingness to accept the situation after a slow stop had dropped him out of the victory fight, ultimately led to what could have been a very nasty outcome. Brazil was a key moment. Verstappen's actions at the Turn 4 incident were as aggressive as F1 had come to expect, but by sliding wide, he blamed worn tires. He left himself vulnerable to an officiating call that never came. And that led to the unedifying display in Jeddah because, from Verstappen's point of view, he could go up to that line over the real white ones, and it was fine, except it never was. You could sense Hamilton's exasperation over repeated moves of such intense aggression in the shove he gave back after their bizarre crash ahead of the final quarter. It's a feeling many shared that Verstappen was just going too far with no respect for fair play. He's seemingly willing to do whatever it takes to win, although not as outrageously as some in F1 history. But it's why the FIA was wrong not to intervene in Brazil. He's so fast, so talented, so unbelievably mentally adept in the most intense racing situation that he is a deserving champion and would be number one on this list. But all those incidents count for too much of what isn't acceptable in motorsport.
Okay. It's not as egregious as I thought it was going to be, their explanation. My response to that would be, don't penalise the driver for the stewards and race control's ineptitude. If race control did their jobs properly and actually read the rule book, maybe Verstappen doesn't go over that line so much. I don't blame Verstappen for taking advantage of a loophole in the officiating, because that's ultimately what any smart racing driver would do if they're trying to win. And I don't hold that against Max, I hold that against how the sport is officiated, as far as I'm concerned. So, I get the logic behind, Verstappen was dirty, so we think because Hamilton was the better pure driver that didn't break the rules besides Silverstone, that Verstappen therefore has been penalised. I don't buy that logic. I think, and I'm going to sound like a Hamilton Twitter account here for a second, I don't think you should bend over to the complicity of how the sport was regulated to hold that against Verstappen personally. I don't think that should hold up. That's my humble opinion. And, like, I get it. You know, Hamilton was the cleaner of the two, if you want to say that, in wheel-to-wheel combat. But let's not forget the most egregious flashpoint of the year came directly from the steering wheel of Lewis Hamilton, and that was at Silverstone as far as I was concerned. And he got away with one himself in Abu Dhabi on the final round on the opening lap when he did exactly what Verstappen did. Like, as far as I was concerned, it's pretty tit for tat on the year overall. And I don't think that should be a argument to put Verstappen further down the rankings, as far as I'm concerned. I think that I disagree with Autosport's overall analysis of how they came to split those two up. I still maintain that I think Max was better on the year, even if he hadn't won the championship. And I'd go as far as to say that even. But hey, that's Autosport for you. You know, it wouldn't be one of their lists without some degree of mass disagreement. But yeah. Now I can see why King was giggling when he said it's exactly how I thought it would play out. Because yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with him, because that's how I thought it might have played out, and that's exactly how it did play out in the end. So yeah. Gentlemen, I know you saw it before I did, but what were your overall thoughts on this before we get out of here?
I'd say fairly solid list. It's definitely an improvement on last year's.
I was going to ask if you thought this was, like, you know, less egregious than last year's, and I think
far less egregious.
Yeah. Oh, far less. Like, look, this wasn't bad by all accounts. Like, overall, top to bottom, you could probably tell from the last hour and a quarter or so, this really wasn't that bad by all accounts. Like, this is probably, I'd even go as far as to say this is probably the best list they've had since we started doing it on this show. There's only a couple that really stand out to me as questionable picks. The order of the top two, maybe. Christopherson being far too low. And I think Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo are a bit, I think, we're in the wrong way around. Certainly, I think Bottas still, I think, gets the benefit. I think George Russell was still a little bit high at 12 as well. But again, I think I think he's on the higher end of what might be deemed acceptable. Given, I think you've given him every benefit of the doubt to put him at 12, because there's a lot of negative arguments you can make about George Russell given his resources and equipment, but clearly that was ignored. So, you know, I get it. I disagree with it, but I get it. I don't think this was actually that bad a list by all accounts. So, well done, Autosport, I guess. Look, I'm going to celebrate my new remote control car I won at the fairground with my 3,000 credits. I'm going to enjoy that. We're going to take a little break in January, because we'll be back at the end of the month for our Formula E season preview for Season 8. And if it's anything like last year, then it's going to be, well, interesting, to say the least. A lot has changed. A lot may end up staying the same. We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about that more towards the end of January. But until then, places you can find us one more time are on youtube.com/motorsport101, or on facebook.com/motorsport101, or on Twitter at motorsport_101. We are on Instagram at motorsport101pod. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101, and you can get all of those details and all of us and all our written articles, all of that on our website as well, motorsport101.com. Check it out if you haven't already. Until then, I've been Dre Harrison, they've been RJ O'Connell and Ryan Eric King, because who doesn't love a good list at the end of the day? Until then, sayonara.
Bye.
No, but seriously, Valtteri Bottas at 21. What the fuck were they thinking?
Man, can't believe Chatters didn't make the list.
We didn't even have Formula. We didn't even have W Series on this list.
Oh.